All right, we are live on the BSC News live stream, and Greg, always good seeing you, and Moon Cow with Beefy Finance, welcome.
Hey Ben, hey Greg, thanks for having me here.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure.
Today?
Yeah, doing pretty well, pretty well.
Good, and we're going to be getting into the BeefCAKE week, but before we do that, let's start with a description of what Beefy Finance is for anybody that isn't in the know yet.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that a lot of BSC News readers know Beefy Finance. We're a yield optimizer. We came about around September last year, which was just when the smart chain was being released itself. We kind of grew up alongside big platforms like Venus and PancakeSwap. And then as time has gone on, we've turned into a multi-chain yield optimizer. So yield optimizing in a basic sense just means we take opportunities that are out there for your assets, whether they're LP pairs, whether it's just your cake holdings, your BNB holdings, and we'll automate that for you. So we'll take the interest rates on other platforms and we'll run it in these automated loops so that you end up earning more than you would if you did it on its own. And we started it on BSC, and as we'll talk a bit maybe after BeefCAKE week, we've expanded a bit as well.
Yeah, and that's been amazing. I mean, like you touched on, you guys launched in September and have kind of been here since the beginning on the Binance Smart Chain. And I just like yield optimizers are insanely helpful. I remember when I first started farming cake, like I was sitting there harvesting a few times every day. And I was like, oh, what's this Beefy Finance? And checked you guys out. And I was like, okay, this is more of my style. Just let it sit in there and compound. And that's been incredible. We have covered like a lot of Beefy Finance things. You guys are always innovating and just like notable. I remember like popping in your guys' Discord at one point very early on last year and kind of just asking for help on an article I was writing, and you guys were just extremely insightful and helpful. And ever since then, like it's just been really solid watching you guys grow since the beginning.
Yeah, that's great to hear. You know, that the Discord channel, I think, is one of our hidden gems. There's such a community there, and I think people are coming to learn about BSC as much as they're coming to learn about Beefy when they drop into those Discord chats. So yeah, very happy to hear you also benefited from that.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of just jumping into what sort of the narrative's been in the latest development. BeefCAKE week started today, and this is kind of like there's a lot to unwrap here. This seems like there's a lot of strategic partnerships going on. Obviously, at the front of this, it looks like we have the pure cake vault, which I think is really interesting. You sort of introduced some exclusivity into this, and I'm kind of curious, like what the thought process between all of this is. We can start on the cake vault and then kind of break down the entire week. There should be a lot to touch on here, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the main motivation, or there's a couple of motivations for Cake Week. One was to promote this new product and let people learn about the advantage of maybe moving their cake either within Beefy Finance or from another platform. But there's also a little bit of education that goes on as well. You know, we're retiring 3 vaults at the end of the week. They're still earning money, but if you're in Smart Cake, if you're in Cake Auto or Cake Swamp, you really need to move your funds. So it's kind of like the second reason to make a bit more of a song and dance of these changes. But yes, Pure Cake is a pretty awesome product. You know, we really looked at what our users need in terms of automation and compounding. And one of the ways to increase the returns is to, of course, reduce our fees. So we looked at every single item within our fees, the ones that we could remove completely or that we could cover ourselves. And we've gone down from like 4.5% fees on that to 77% saving down to 1%. And that 1% goes directly to the Beefy holders, you know. So there's no money going out to the devs, the strategists, or the treasury. It's just as we say, kind of pure cake vault. And we already seen today, like we released it 1 or 2 hours, it's already got more than $10 million worth of TVL.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I know you guys kind of touched on this. We at BSC News actually put out an article covering it today that I'll just drop in the chat for anybody curious. But I also saw that this is kind of getting rid of the other vaults. So is this sort of something here to work with a little bit more closely with Pancake Swap here, kind of just up the security in that sense, kind of minimize some of or the multiple use of smart contracts across platforms?
That's a complete secondary benefit, and our devs are well aware of that when pushing for these changes as well. It's been quite a month or a couple of months for BSC, lots of really strong growth and lots of maybe problems with smart contracts or logic within those smart contracts, and also bad actors, right? And so if we can change one of our blue chip vaults into going only to a blue chip partner in Cake, then we can kind of cut out those middlemen. And so we really see like twofold increase in security. One is there just are less smart contracts. So that removes the chance that we've made an error or one of our partners has made an error. And the second thing is that we just don't rely on so many teams in between us. We have some vaults out there that go through from Beefy to Belt, then through Auto to Venus, and then end up, it's great. You earn a lot of money, but you take on additional risk by using a vault like that.
Definitely, definitely. And is this something where, because you guys are exclusive to Cake, kind of promoting this exclusivity, is there some sort of incentive of Cake in this partnership? I'm not sure if I caught that or not. Just curious.
No, I mean, we have not done this like with like full permission of the Pancake Swap team. We really just took like our best vault with the best blue chip platform on Smart Chain at a time when people are maybe worried what they should be investing in, and we really wanted to emphasize that. And that's the second thing of BeefCAKE Week. We also brought in some trusted partners. We will have a talk about safety with SafePal on Thursday. We'll talk about tracking your yield with Crown, and then also just on the growth of Iron Finance tomorrow. So all of these things, a little bit of extra education should also help people realize what Beefy is trying to do here is give you the right options. We're actually completely agnostic with what vaults our users use, and they make Beefy platform different rates of money. We do always do our due diligence, so we're not going to put anything of crazy risk there. But I think it's also like a responsibility for us to nudge people towards the blue chip options at this time in the market.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's super interesting. And yeah, that vault is kind of like the highlight. I really like what you guys kind of did with the fees. You lowered the option, so it's not like, okay, which Cake vault do you go in? It's just like, okay, this is the only Cake vault and it makes the most sense for me to be in this one. So that's super cool, just making that easy for the user. Kind of just to jump into the schedule here, because why not? We're on Monday, we have the BSCNews live interview. Right now we're doing that, so that's sick. You guys have already launched the Pure Cake Beefy vault. It sounds like you've already stopped accepting deposits as well. Did you maybe want to elaborate on this BeefCAKE NFT toaster meme contest? I think that's pretty interesting there.
So we have ran one meme contest so far, and we didn't give it a theme, and we got some pretty good entries, and we got a really nice logo GIF out of it, I would say. But we didn't really get any like top quality meme connoisseurs, and I would say it's probably because we didn't really have a theme. So as soon as we were knocking around the word BeefCAKE, it seemed pretty ideal, right, to get some good content off the back of that. And so we can run that as a contest, and we'll get a bit of reach there. But we wanted to do that again with sort of a partner within the BSC ecosystem. And I think it's a much newer platform than people know, NF Toaster, but it's a place where you can mint your NFTs, you can trade them with each other. And, some of the unique things about nftoaster.com is that they're actually already listed in the iOS store. They're already listed in Android. So most of these platforms, you need to go through a party like Trust Wallet or SafePal to find them in the dApp store. And, we've seen just this week, iOS switching off the dApp store for Trust Wallet. So it's quite unique. It's quite unique to see a BSC project go like direct to the App Store. And I think that's the second reason we want to do this contest in partner with them.
Gotcha. Definitely, definitely. And then, yeah, getting into the rest of the week, it looks like you guys have a bunch of AMAs here. One with Iron, one with King Finance, SafePal. So there's all sorts of stuff. Did you maybe want to touch on those a little bit? Is that maybe possibly hinting at some partnerships or anything? I think there might be a lot to unpack there. And just before I pass this back off, someone else also asked, tracking your yield with Crown, what is Crown? So that kind of bundles into those same AMAs there. And that actually might be something that user Nice Boing will want to jump into.
Yeah, definitely. Like, tomorrow it's about Iron Finance. Iron Finance has been one of the recent success stories as well. And we kind of want to showcase them because they actually joined our launch pool program, which is a program that we use to promote early stage BSC projects. And they were one of them when they had less than $40 million in TVL on our platform. And I think less than $250 million on their own platform. And so we want to talk to them about that, why they worked with us, and how they also have kind of navigated into this Polygon multi-chain world. I guess those would be the two things that we'll be talking about with Iron. Crown is a much earlier stage project. We will be asking them just as many questions to learn about them as maybe the crowd wants to, but they kind of impressed us because I think they're going to be a regular DEX and AMM and things like this, but they actually put in some effort to build some additional monitoring tools, which I think you can find on crown.fi, or at least you can get to it from the articles we've posted. And they already built a dashboard for people like Auto, and now they built one for Beefy Finance. And I think this is another thing that we'll explore with them on Wednesday. And then SafePal, yeah, I mean, it's not a huge step in the partnership, but after this release that we've had this week of the pure cake and some of the messaging that we put out there, they're kind of going to put us up in their hot list in the SafePal wallet, so that it's be a little bit easier to find, because right now Beefy's buried in pages and pages of DeFi apps. So hopefully that will give a bit of awareness from the SafePal users.
Cool. I wanted to jump in here. Someone mentioned a couple times that Mark Cuban is using Beefy. Is this something you can comment on? This is actually, I haven't heard that before.
So this is seems to be pretty true. He's definitely using Iron Finance, our partner, for a couple of pairs, and I think single asset as well. And he was quite public about this. He wrote about QuickSwap, he wrote about Iron Finance, and what he likes about Polygon Matic. And then from the Discord of of Iron, they actually just started taking his addresses, right? Because some of his addresses are public or tied to donations that he's made in the past. So it's quite easy to see with publicly available information what he's doing. And yeah, I think he's already put like $1.6 million into Beefy in the last couple of days, all for Iron Finance vaults, and long may it continue.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think that kind of touches on this. So it sounded like you were hinting at a lot of Mark Cuban's involvement with Beefy and Iron is on the Polygon side. And we definitely wanted to sort of touch on these multi-chain moves that Beefy has done. It seems like it's been a lot of success. I know the Phantom launch garnered a lot of attention, but since then Phantoms seem to die down a little bit, and the narrative has been all about Polygon recently, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Polygon is super hot right now. It kind of comes from this basic drive of Beefy Finance to keep people safe and to help them earn money. There's no need to be like tied to one chain in order to do that. We have a very big dev team, a lot of people kind of scouting for opportunities, and teams approaching us now. So yeah, it started with Phantom and Avalanche and building some things for them. We will go a bit stronger on Avalanche in the next couple of weeks. We have an AMA with Pangolin, and they're making some introductions for us to know more players in the space. But I will tell you why we succeeded on BSC and why we are succeeding on Polygon is kind of for the same reasons, right? And those reasons are that we were trusted early on by a few players. So Binance themselves, Trust Wallet, things like that back in September, October. And that gave us the impetus to grow. But it also gave us introductions and a bit of like a reputation when those introductions were made. So we're able to get like good negotiations and partners with launch pools and things like that on our own platform. And what's happened with Polygon is that, Matic themselves, QuickSwap themselves, in particular, also Comef very early on in our journey, they like really made great introductions for us. So we start to learn which wallets work there, which bridges work, and we can really confidently communicate that to our users. And then when they see that the APY is healthy over there and Beefy is promoting it, or at least supporting it by putting it on the platform, they'll move. And I think it's possible with Phantom. We have great relationships with Spooky. We have great relationships with Spirit Swap, and we're getting approached by more and more, I think, Tombstone today as well. but it's also a little bit on the side of those communities to rally around the opportunity that is presented. Like that, those APYs are not going away, so they kind of need to tell across their community internally these opportunities, and bring the users to Beefy, because we're just going to keep building the tools, and I think the communities will identify those at different speeds.
Definitely. I see someone's mentioning the Tomb Vaults. I actually popped in onto Phantom just to check out the UI on there. And those vaults are like over 10% daily APY right now,
Yeah.
right? And is that an algorithmic stablecoin, I'm assuming? I didn't get too much time to kind of jump into that.
Yeah, so I also have not had time to look at Tombstone today. I was really focused on the BeefCAKE week, but it's really important that the users do their own research around these projects. There are very high APYs, but often quite volatile assets, right? So
Definitely.
if you're gonna go into a pair like that, you need to be monitoring it at least daily, and maybe more. You know, we automate the process for you, but we don't automate the decision making for you. So you need to still keep an eye on your assets if you want to come out on top. And again, that kind of loops. It's great for us to have those platforms. We do the due diligence. We bring them in if we trust their code. You know, an example with Spirit Swap, which is a Phantom project. They approached us. They even built a farm for one of our pairs, and they wanted their pairs to be up on Beefy. And we said yes, but there's still like this quite a big amount of their tokens just kind of sitting in a wallet with no time lock, and they promised it to be given out as an airdrop in the future, but there was no real protection for the users. And so we said, look, we'll definitely bring you on board if you can put in a time lock on this part of your reserve tokens. And they've built that, right? So they took our advice. They took a week to prepare for that, make sure they do it well, and that means in a week's time that we can list them. So it kind of goes like two ways. We do due diligence on the platforms, but the assets themselves, you really need to look into them yourselves.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, like you guys can look through the code and look for what you know what to look for. But even then, like audits are never perfect. That kind of stuff is never
Yeah.
perfect. So it always comes down to sort of understanding the risks in DeFi. Smart contract risks will always exist. And then even if there isn't any smart contract risks, like these markets are insanely small, which makes them super volatile. And kind of just to loop back around, I think it's really interesting that Beefy Finance sort of has this same idea of branching out into all of DeFi, kind of providing it for all users. Because this is something that's kind of been a big discussion around BSCNews lately. Like there is a lot of growth coming to these other chains, such as Solana. We've actually put out a sister website, Solana News, and we're starting to actually like dive into some more news regarding like Polygon and Matic. We've been posting some articles. So this is all sorts of things where we're trying to branch out to that as well, because they are healthy ecosystems and they offer very similar services to Binance Smart Chain. It's almost just like which one caters best to the individual user. So it's nice curating kind of all of that to give it to the community, which I think it's one of my main focuses recently has been Polygon. I think that's been insanely, like there's been a lot of hype around that. I think a lot of it's been because of Mark Cuban, but it's also just it's very usable and easy to use. And you guys attributed a lot of that success to kind of working with and partnering with projects in the Polygon ecosystem. I was just skimming your guys' Medium and saw you guys had the Polygon NFT giveaway, it looked like. So this is like another one of those partnerships, if you maybe wanted to elaborate on that, if you know too much on that. Yeah.
I mean, the Polygon partnership is definitely been valuable to us. You know, works two ways. One is economically, Polygon Matic giving some additional rewards that we could use to boost vaults so that our users earn more than they would elsewhere. This is particularly interesting on the single asset vaults because, you know, single asset lending or just Ethereum lending or BNB lending compared to like the 10 million APY you're going to get on some crazy LP is actually can be like 8 to 10% annual. So, you know, there's less incentive for people to bridge chains for this like small changes between like 7 and 8% or 9 and 10%. So being able to boost some of those single assets with Polygon assets that came direct from Matic has definitely helped. Also, just the high rewards that QuickSwap is paying out at the moment. You know, it's a bit like when Pancake came onto the scene in September last year. They had so much Pancake to give away, and it's holding some value, that the rewards were enormous on all of these BSC opportunities last year as well. And so I think QuickSwap is kind of benefiting from that short-term ability to pay out those high rewards, and we auto compound those for the Beefy users. I mean, that the NFT was really just a celebration of the milestone that we got to. I think we hit 100 million a few days after we went through some of the publicity, and then we hit 250 million less than a week later, and I think it's already today around about 320 million, and 250 was yesterday or the day before. So it's really continuing to grow, and I think that we have a head start here, and it's a head start that we maybe had on Smart Chain, but some interesting projects popped up around yield optimization, and they focused in different ways. You know, you've seen the success of Pancake Bunny and the way that they really focused in on cake assets, but we don't really have that same level of competition yet on Polygon, and so I think a lot of the liquidity and the earnings is going to grow with us as Polygon grows.
Definitely. And I think that's something where you guys are already seeing the liquidity growing. So it's nice to know that it's working and that you guys have plans to kind of keep capturing this market with the sight in mind that it'll continue to grow and be something like the Binance Smart Chain in the future.
I want to say one more thing, Greg, about this bridging. It's really interesting for people to take a look at the difference in the APY of the Beefy asset itself. So if you're staking that on Smart Chain right now, I think your annual interest is maybe like 20 to 30%. Whereas if you take exactly the same Beefy asset and bridge it over to Polygon, you can get around 300 to 400%. And it's on exactly the same asset at exactly the same price. And the reason for this is that the Polygon chain is generating so much revenue for the Beefy platform, specifically on Polygon, that there's an imbalance between the APYs that you'll get on BSC and that you'll get on Polygon, and there will still be an arbitrage opportunity for people to keep moving over to Polygon with their BSC Beefy. But as things then grow on BSC and people move their Beefy to chase that APY, then they would probably move back to BSC because there will be less people like sharing the APY that's on Beefy Finance and on the Smart Chain version. It's a bit complicated, but I think the point I'm trying to make is like, it's really good to take, if you're a Beefy holder, to take a look at Polygon right now. You could do a lot better for yourself.
And what's the easiest bridge to use for sending Beefy over?
Yeah, so AnySwap is the one that we recommend. I think it's good. I don't have the URL directly, so I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's good if you guys just actually put that out as the correct one, and I can send it to you Telegram straight afterwards. But AnySwap is definitely doing a job there.
And I had a question on the Polygon side. You said it's generating a lot more revenue. Is there more compounds done on Polygon than on BSC?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can have more compounds on Polygon because the fees are lower, right? So like in dollar terms, we can really ramp up the auto compounding. So some of those are in finance, like the big stablecoin pair. I think we are compounding maybe like 10 to 20 times a minute now. And whereas when we launched on Smart Chain, we're doing one compound every 10 minutes. We sped up the cake one today because we also like removed so many layers. Again, this is kind of like all these secondary advantages of this pure cake vault is that we're actually able to speed up the auto compounding there now as well. And so we have around 9,000 compounds a year on cake. But yeah, on Polygon, it's even faster. And the second reason the revenue is higher is because there's less middleman on Polygon. So we're going like direct to Aave, we're going direct to QuickSwap, we're going direct to Sushi. And so the revenue doesn't get lost to the middlemen's promotional coins. Instead, it kind of sticks with the Beefy holders going straight back into Beefy Maxi. So the TVL is still higher on BSC, but the revenue is a lot higher on Polygon right now.
Yeah, and overall, this kind of just, it sounds like a win. Like overall, Beefy is generating more revenue and kind of giving it back to these holders. I think this is super interesting. I'm actually loaded up Beefy Finance on Polygon, and you guys already have these new Wex vaults that just came out for the Wex Poly airdrop. So you guys are definitely on top of all of that stuff, which is cool to see. More developments there. Just keep growing the TVL and kind of same thing, like Beefy just generates more revenue. And I think that's something that actually me and Ben touch on a lot. It's very notable that Beefy is a fixed supply token and it has a way to generate revenue and sort of distribute it back to its holders. And I think that has a lot of value in this ecosystem because people are always going to want their yields to be compounded and optimized. So being one of the first yield optimizers to kind of launch and continue innovating, I think is huge for you guys.
Yeah. Go on, Ben.
I was say, and you guys release vaults quickly. Oh, historically, it's tough to beat the speed of Beefy Finance. I know you've beaten platforms to their own vaults in the past, so you guys are quick.
Yeah, we have a really unique situation with our development team. You know, it's open source and very decentralized, but we have 2 or 3 lead engineers that can look over code that maybe more juniors can create, right? So people come into our ecosystem, they look at the code, and then they just build a vault for themselves, right? And as long as the due diligence is there and the senior devs let it through, we can just keep creating vaults all day with this army of contributors. And then coming back to the revenue, you know, I think this is something that people are warming up to. Like the Binance listing for Beefy Finance last year, you know, it shot the price straight up above 4,000. And as is typical, it kind of came down and settled down again. And I think it's taken a while for some of those new holders to really understand that they have a share in the revenue of Beefy Finance. And, you know, after this growth on Polygon and with the TVL still high on Binance, we're buying back more than like 500,000 to 100K of Beefy every day. I think the thing we put out yesterday was a buyback in the week of $500,000. And that's being bought like directly off the market. And that's why you see today like a maybe 40-50% increase in price as well of Beefy.
Yeah, Beefy's been doing incredible. 40%. I'm looking at CoinGecko here in the last 24 hours. So this entire kind of event, Polygon expansion, all this sort of stuff has been received very well. And that sort of seems to be the theme. Like a lot of projects have done very well with their Polygon bridges, and it's been garnering a lot more attention.
It's that's something I wanted to comment on, and Moonka, you're someone that could say if this is something that I'm just thinking, or if there's something to it, which is BSC really became like a developer playground, and you guys were able to really master a product and now take it cross chain, and that was almost something that Ethereum projects didn't have that advantage to do. Is there truth to that, or is that just something that I'm just kind of speculating on?
I think that what Binance created was very special and very timely, right? They created something that ran in exactly the same code as Ethereum. So any developers that wanted a new place to build already had the skill sets. They also created it in a way that it was cheaper to deploy and cheaper for the users. So all the things that kind of ETH 2.0 promise, Binance kind of created and pushed out the door in September of last year. And so it definitely created this playground effect, but not everybody wanted to join in. You know, there's a lot of ETH maxis, and I think they turned their nose up at Smart Chain. They maybe didn't take the time to look into some of the fundamentals and the reasons why it was built. And they said, oh, we don't deal with Binance. We're not going to build there. But the ones who are open-minded, yeah, they've had incredible success. You know, I was looking at Pancake Bunny today. Pancake Swap today. I think it has close to like $20 billion in TVL, or maybe at least 10. And these are guys and girls who decided that they wanted to build and willing to build on something that was actually user-friendly, even if it didn't fit some of these like maxi philosophies. I think the reason Polygon is succeeding is because in the mind of some of those ETH maxis, it's less of a step for them. You know, they kind of, for whatever reasons, they're a little bit delusional maybe about Binance's intentions and Polygon intentions they see differently. And so I think that's why we've seen some of the developers willing to build so quickly on Polygon.
And then for you guys, is the next step when the time is right is to go to Ethereum itself, I would imagine.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. There's established players on Ethereum. There's very low APYs on a lot of the opportunities because of the fees. So we would actually be going into a market where it's a little bit difficult to differentiate ourselves from someone like Yearn or something like that. And we see that they're not really moving out of that space either. But it's definitely on our roadmap, and what we actually looking for mostly is bridges and liquidity that we can create on both sides. So again, with Polygon, we needed the support of QuickSwap to create that liquidity. On Phantom, we need that from places like Spooky and Spirit helping out from the start. We'd have to create exactly those relationships again with Ethereum-based platforms, and having come of age on Smart Chain, that might not be as easy to make those partnerships as we've managed to make on other chains.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's incredibly notable about kind of like the developer playground on Binance Smart Chain is the amount of support and incentive that Binance itself kind of gave to the chain. They offered, I mean, they still are offering over 100 million in grants to these projects. So it's kind of just a lot of money for these developers to go out and build and experiment, and kind of Binance facilitated this sort of thing, which goes a long way. And I know it's like, this is a big reason why we're seeing a lot of Matic success as well, because it's not necessarily in the same form of like grants, but there's a lot of Matic incentives that are being given out to projects and to users to kind of incentivize building on the chain, which goes a long way for bootstrapping liquidity.
Yeah, I really think so, and I think Binance kind of set the model for that, because that didn't really exist on Ethereum, right? You had the old school people who hold a lot of Ethereum but are running their own projects, but you don't really have this like core group that maybe is going to incentivize the best things to be built. And I think Binance has been a really good model of that. We won that MVP along with Auto and Pancake Bunny, and we got listed very early on. And these are like really big steps that Binance is taking to support those teams. And we see with the MVB2 some interesting projects, a slightly different focus of NFTs and gamification. But without giving too much away, it's not the end of the month yet. Let's just say that. So there's still time for some things to be deployed that might fit in with that MVB2 from the Beefy side.
Sweet, definitely. That's actually really exciting to hear. Ben, you got any additional here? I think all my questions are kind of been tied up. This has been like great. I kind of really wanted to touch on Polygon and all this sort of good stuff. The BeefCAKE vault, that seems to have a lot of benefits there. I really like the idea of being able to kind of point users, make kind of the DeFi experience easier. It's not like, holy shit, I have 4 different cake vaults that I need to choose from. It's, oh, well, there's only one cake vault and it has the lowest fees out of any other vault. Like, it makes sense.
Nice.
Yeah, and just the one thing I was thinking about earlier to comment on was, sounds like you guys are taking a focus on education, which is something that we're also doing, which I think is going to be important just down the road for growing the space as a whole. So I really like that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, nice. And I think you guys are a news channel, so you can be as agnostic as you need. And I think Beefy, with this multi-chain journey, is also positioning ourselves that we can just tell the truth all the time. We don't have anything to hide, and where good things are happening, Beefy is going to be there. So yeah, education is a big part, and we're also going to be releasing our V2 user interface in the next couple of weeks, maybe next month. And this also has an emphasis on education and risk scores and some things that you haven't seen from Beefy Finance just yet.
Awesome.
Gotcha. It sounds like there's a ton in store over there, whether it's on Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, Avalanche, Phantom. Beefy's there, it sounds like.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, guys. Really nice to chat, and I'm sure we'll speak again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Definitely.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us.